Hello, welcome to the Flute 360 podcast, where we incorporate a panoramic view of flute-related topics. I am your host, Heidi K. Begay, and this is episode 86, an interview with Hilary Abigana. Powell Flutes has crafted handmade flutes and piccolos in the Boston area since 1927. From the intermediate Powell sonare to the professional handmade custom, the highest level of attention is given to creating artistic, quality instruments reflective of Boston's flute heritage. Powell's dedication to the balance of tradition and innovation results in flutes, head joints, and piccolos that combine the coveted Powell sound with the demands of the modern flutist. This commitment to excellence has resulted in internationally acclaimed instruments that have made the Powell sound the gold standard amongst musicians around the world. Visit powellflutes.com to see their entire line of instruments and to find the dealer nearest you. Welcome everyone to another Flute 360 podcast episode. We are so happy that you have joined us. And today I have the wonderful Hilary Abigana, who is a Powell artist and the flutist through the Fourth Wall Ensemble. Welcome, Hilary.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, for sure. So what have you been doing this Thursday morning?
Oh, not much yet. It's still early in the day for me.
I just had a pint of raspberries and water, so.
You're so healthy. See, I start every day with like a huge cup of Berry's Irish breakfast tea, and I got to get my caffeine started.
Oh, yeah. Oh, trust me, I will have a double shot of espresso.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
I got to get that morning going.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you like food? Do you consider yourself a foodie where you go out and seek out, certain restaurants or recipes?
Absolutely. So food is very big in my life. I love food. I'm terrible at cooking it, unfortunately. And my husband and stepson are picky, so I don't try out anything really new on them, but I love food. I'm also a big craft beer and whiskey person, so I'm always trying out new breweries and new distilleries and saying what's new in that world as well. It's always a lot of fun for me.
Oh, I see. That's cool. So were you able to go to the National Flute Association this past Salt Lake City convention?
Yes, I was there in full force. Yeah. So I got to perform on the Friday night gala. My trio, The Fourth Wall, actually closed the gala out with our version of the Toy Soldier's Tale with music written by my brother, Brett Abigana. And we got to do that with full costume, and I'm dancing on point, and it was super fun. And 2 hours before that, we had just finished a full show that we did. It was a full version of our neo-vaudeville variety show called Fruit Flies Like a Banana, in which we do many short pieces in an hour, and the audience chooses the order. Oh. And after that show, we realized, that was the hardest Fruit Flies we've ever programmed. Let's not do that again. We were just exhausted. And then we had to go over and do the gala. And then on Sunday, I also did the official premiere of Alex Gardner's Fade for Flute and Electronics, which what a joy to work on that piece. It was such an honor. Wow. And then I got to just be there and see people and see all my friends and get to see Cherish the Ladies live on Thursday night, which was incredible because I grew up listening to Cherish the Ladies and got to meet Joni Madden, which was amazing. And I was fangirling all over the place. Got to celebrate Bonnie Boyd's 70th birthday and go to it was so great. It was such a joy to be there. I love going to the convention, and it's always fun to see everybody year after year and see what everybody's up to these days. So it was so much fun.
I am so bummed I wasn't able to see your performances.
It happens. There's so much going on. There's only
I was actually, quote unquote, working. It doesn't feel like work, but I was podcasting all 4 days at the convention.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, and that's episode 71 through 74. So if anyone wants to hear those talks, check it out because they were super informative and fun and chill. And I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And Dallas is next year. And are you submitting a proposal for that?
We're not. Partly, we'd love to go to Dallas, but the thing is actually we are, in all likelihood, will be traveling to Scotland to participate in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which is the largest theater festival in the world with about 5,000 shows and over 15,000 performers.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm still like, really, guys, we want to do this. But it's kind of a bucket list item. And so I think we're going to end up doing that next August, which will take up literally the entire month of August and all of our brain power.
Huge congratulations. That sounds amazing.
Oh, thanks. That's assuming we actually make it happen, of course.
Oh, yeah. But just even like, pursuing something of such huge endeavors, I think that's amazing that you're always reaching for that next level.
Yeah.
You're like, when will it stop?
Yeah, right? It's like, when will enough be enough? Oh, classical musicians. It's never enough.
Right? It's like a disease or something.
It's such a disease. Oh, man. Ugh.
They should diagnose us or something and put a label on it.
Yeah, or at least warn us our freshman year in music school. It's like, you're going to get a career, but you're always going to feel like you can do more. You're okay. Everybody does it.
Oh, shoot. So we've kind of dabbled a little bit of who you are. So let's backtrack just a tad. And could you share with the listeners your background, personal and musical?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned before, I am the flutist with the Fourth Wall. We're a hybrid arts ensemble, and the hybrid arts are when music, theater, and dance collide, essentially. We are all classically trained musicians, but we're also trained dancers and actors and acrobats as well. So essentially, you're more likely to see me perform upside down, hanging from one of the guys in my trio, than sitting in a chair behind a music stand. In fact, we rarely use music stands at all in our shows, and usually only to hold a clock or because it's funny. And that's really the only times we use a music stand. Otherwise, we're moving, we're talking to the audience, and we're being involved like that. As for my background, I grew up in California, actually, and my very first flute teacher was Robin Richmond. She used to be the principal flutist of the Sacramento Symphony before they folded. Mm-hmm. And then she sent me on to Tim Day, who is incredible human being, both incredible human beings. But Tim is the principal flutist of the San Francisco Symphony and teaches at San Francisco Conservatory. Mm-hmm. And when I was auditioning for undergrad, Tim said, go to Eastman. And I said, I don't know anything about that because I wasn't very good at researching things and did not know what I was doing. But he said, go to Eastman. You will love it there. Bonnie would be perfect for you. And luckily I got into Eastman and I studied with Bonnie Boyd, which was amazing. And I got my my bachelor's in flute performance as well as my performer's certificate from Eastman. And then I went to grad school at Rice University where I studied with Leon Bicey. And it was Leon who kind of was the ultimate catalyst for me really pursuing the hybrid arts. There was a piece that I had discovered where I experienced in undergrad called Masks by Oliver Knussen. And it requires the flutist to move from different stations around the stage and make faces and make certain movements happen. And something about this piece really struck a chord with me. It just felt so, I never knew that, I didn't know you could just not use music and you could not stand still. You could move. And I thought that was amazing. As someone who had studied dance as a kid, the idea of not being stuck in one spot really resonated with me. And so I took this piece to Lyon and worked on it and honed it. And we started asking ourselves, why is the composer asking you to do this? Who are you? What is this? Why are you doing this? And that made this piece really explode for me and become a huge thing. And so when I was coming down towards the end of my master's, I was doing orchestra auditions because, of course, when you go to Rice, you are going to be in an orchestra. That's what they all do. Yeah. Everyone gets an orchestra job at Rice. And that was my ultimate goal. And luckily, Lyon really saw something in me that, first of all, would never practice hard enough to get into an orchestra. But also, she realized that maybe I was not... My talents were best suited elsewhere. And in a sense, she not only urged me to explore the hybrid arts, but also gave me permission to let go of the plan that I had always thought had to be my plan, which was to be in an orchestra. I auditioned for a group that is no longer in existence, but it was a nationally touring ensemble that told stories to kids using music, theater, and dance. I did that for 2 years. And then and that's where I met Greg and Neil. Greg is the percussionist in the Fourth Wall, and Neil is our bass trombonist. And once we left that company, we formed the Fourth Wall, and here we are. And that was, not quite 10 years ago, but coming up on 10 years. It'll be 10 years in January that we began talks of the Fourth Wall.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a long story.
No, it's great. I have a dance background too.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Ballet.
Ballet is so awful and so wonderful at the same time, isn't it?
It is.
That's what I did. And like when I was a kid, I told my parents I wanted to be the Sugar Plum Fairy. And so they got me into ballet lessons. And then I loved ballet. I still love ballet, but I am so not good at ballet, but I still pretend. And like, I put myself on point as an adult because I'm an adult and I do what I want. Yeah. And I complain about point shoes every single time I put them on, but I feel so damn fancy when I get to wear them. And I love it.
Yeah, don't you? It's just like, I don't know if it's the height or the power to get up on, the tip of your toes. I don't know what it is, but it gives you that sense of power for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you just saying that, it's like, that's absolutely it. It is incredibly powerful to be on point shoes and then do your best to look as effortless and as featherweight as possible. Yeah.
I love it.
It's powerful. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I will say though, at 13, when I was starting to train on point, so I started ballet at 2 actually. And then I went all the way to 13. And at 13, I was training on point, getting ready for a recital with the academy. Yeah. And I did a spin. And the next thing you know, I actually fractured a vertebrae in my back. Oh, no. I know. And I'm fine now. And so I ended my ballet career because of that. And I found the flute, thankfully. So it was kind of, one door closed, another door opened, but still to this day, at 34, I still protect my lower back region by kind of arching that lower back. You know how a lot of positions in ballet will have you just arch that lower back forward and have that curve. In that area. Well, I'm still protecting that area, and of course, it doesn't really benefit my flute playing. So I always have to tell myself to release that area, and it still comes up 20 years later. And it's like, isn't that interesting how the body learns a certain remembers, and it's like, wow, look at that. So,
do you do yoga?
I do yoga, which helps a lot.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Going in different positions. Alexander technique actually helped me a lot.
Oh, I bet.
Because it just brought the awareness that I was doing it. I had no idea I did it. And sure enough, when I look at pictures of me sitting in an orchestra or in an ensemble, there I am just pushing my stomach forward and arching my lower back. I'm like, why am I doing that? And because of my work with Alexander Technique. My professor, Luc Venier at Texas Tech University, helped me with that. But
Wow.
I say all of that because we're talking about dance and we're talking about, the other arts. And so maybe there's somebody out there who is a dancer and a musician, and these could be possible resources for them, like yoga and Alexander Technique, because I wish I would have had that sooner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I also wish that I had explored other arts in school sooner. I mean, and I wish it was forced on me in undergrad to dance class or to take a circus class or something. That would have aided my musical career and then just broadened my field of possibility so much more, as opposed to being so focused in such a narrow track. Yeah. It would have been great. I mean, I take circus classes now, and that is a workout. And it's great. It's great for my body, and it's great overall. It's awesome. And it's very empowering.
That sounds fun.
It is. And also I can't lift my arms today, so that's fun as well.
Well, it's a perfect day for podcasting then.
Exactly. Yes.
Woo. Oh, shoot. So through all of that, as you're finding your niche, with Leon, and as you are establishing the fourth wall, was there ever a time when you just wanted to give up? And if so, what did you do to get through that season?
Oh, sure. All the time. And that's something that I'm also a pessimist, so it comes up probably more often for me than normal people. So yeah, I still absolutely have those moments where I want to give up. And I think, is this worth it? Do people actually care about what I'm doing? But the fact is that people do care. And I know that. And the convention was another reminder. It was an amazing reminder to be in such a loving and supportive community, and to be doing what... Is there a storm on your end?
It's actually a huge storm.
Yeah.
It's just oh yeah, no, it's like bowling balls and, the whole works.
Yeah.
The Angels wanted to bowl today instead of tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Or an hour later, Oh, shoot.
You do you, Angels.
Yeah, I'm actually in Corpus Christi, and so we're right off the Gulf, and so I think rain is a thing here. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt your flow of thought.
That's okay.
Okay.
No, that's okay. I get distracted by things easily, and I was like, "Ooh, that was a loud one." Yeah. I don't know if I was heard. Yeah. So it's to be around other artists who not only get what you do, but also support what you do, is really wonderful, and it's very helpful. And I know what it is that the fourth wall does is important in our communities, and getting just a different take on classical music and performance itself. And so, it's one of those things where it's like, no, this is important work, and we got to keep doing this. Also, our rehearsals are really fun, so why would I give that up?
Yeah. I love it. No, I think it's a great idea. And I think you're actually keeping music alive in your own way, in the sense of keeping up with the times.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm biased.
Yeah. Well, when I was checking you guys out and looking through your videos and stuff, and I was just thinking, in today's world, we are such visual human beings. YouTube and our phones, and then to have the choreography with this beautiful music could really, I bet, just resonates with a ton of people.
Yeah. One of the things that's very important to us is to not only, bring new music by living composers to the educated crowd, that's not even the right word, the connoisseurs, I should say, but also to folks who they don't listen to classical music every day. There are folks who they don't listen to classical music every day. So, and we want to, remind them that classical music isn't just old dead white men. There are composers still writing music, and it's not something to be afraid of, and they can experience it and get it. You know, I think that's a huge fear for folks who aren't, for the casual listener. They may have heard classical music in a movie a couple of times, but otherwise it can feel very off-putting. So we like to bring new music to them, but we also like to reimagine those classical favorites that they all know. They all know Toccata and Fugue in D minor. They all know Chopin's Minute Waltz for some reason. They probably all sort of recognize Swan Lake. Things like that. But if we bring it to them in a different context, they can go, oh, I get this now. I recognize this. And that kind of recognition brings them into our world, and they don't feel so out of our bubble, you know?
Yeah.
So we quite enjoy that aspect of it as well. Just being that, well, the invisible wall, the fourth wall is a theater term that describes the invisible wall between performer and audience. It's a theater term.
Okay.
And so the idea of breaking the fourth wall, that's when the performer talks directly to the audience. So you'll see that in House of Cards or Ferris Bueller's Day Off or Deadpool. That happens a lot in those movies. So we're constantly talking to the audience. We're going out to the audience. We're bringing the audience on stage. We're trying to open up that wall, but we're also want to be that conduit between composer and audience. So there's not so much of a divide between perhaps the old dead white man or the living female composer of color. We want to bring them to the audience as well in a way the audience may not have previously experienced or had the opportunity to experience.
Yeah, that's amazing. It kind of reminds me when you said, the dead white man. I taught at Tarrant County College music appreciation courses, to my students in Fort Worth. And a lot of my students had never gone to a symphony orchestra concert ever in their life. And these were kids that were in their, early 20s, mid 20s. And one of them went because, I encourage every semester, go to a musical performance that you may never have attended. And so for them, that's like, the opera or the symphony orchestra. And their faces when they come back, though, when they go and see a symphony, they light up. They're like, oh, that's so cool. And I said, well, what was cool about it? And they comment and they say, I thought I had to dress up in a tuxedo. Everybody was going to be snobby. I thought I wasn't going to be accepted and I couldn't go because I, went in khakis and a polo. And I'm like, no, it's for everybody. And so once they realize that that's really not a thing, then they feel more invited. Yeah, and then in your scenario, you guys are moving and there's scarves and there's color and there's, you know what I mean? And so I can envision those same students that I taught maybe being more willing just to say, hey, let me check this out, thinking it's part of their world already. Yeah, that's so cool.
Thanks. It's fun.
Yeah. So do you have any advice for flutists out there who are pursuing a musical career as their profession?
Yeah. So my advice is find your thing and do it well. And it may have to be a brand new career that no one's ever done before, but if it's yours, then it's yours. But, and if you want to be in an orchestra, do it and do it really well. But find what it is that you can add to our community, what you want to add to our community, and then just do it as best you can. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't. And that includes yourself, because again, as classical musicians, sometimes we get on this downward hate spiral of, I can't. And as soon as you start doing that and you allow yourself to say that to yourself, then you can't. Then you won't, and it won't happen. you have to stay open to possibility of at least maybe. That maybe it will, and maybe I can at least do that. But then the more you can just push yourself to do what it is that you want to do and that you can add, then the more opportunities you will eventually find.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. That's wonderful. I'm curious, to be a little candid, I'm going a little off script here. Did you ever have somebody who just flat out said, no, sorry, you just need to get out of the business and just call it quits?
Twice in my life, I think. Yeah. So first time, my parents will find this really funny. The first time was oh my goodness, how old was I? I was probably 7 or 8, and I had just started playing flute. I started flute when I was 7, and I think I started taking private lessons early on. I was just seven or early when I was around 8, sometime around then. And my very, very, very first flute teacher, this woman who never challenged me, was not a good teacher. And I told her, and my brother had just done the this amazing orchestra camp for kids. It's the Disney's Young Musicians Symphony Orchestra. And it was like this thing where like kids for 12 and under would get to go to LA and work on orchestra music, and it would get played on the Disney Channel, and you get to go to Disneyland. It was filmed. The whole week was filmed. It was a big deal. And you got to play in like this huge hall. And so my brother did that when he was 12. He played horn in the orchestra, and it was so great. And I told this very first teacher when I was like 8 that I wanted to do that. I wanted to do that. And she said, oh, you'll never be able to do that. You'll never be good enough until you're too old. And I told my mom that, and she said, oh, fascinating. Okay. New flute teacher. So we got a new flute teacher, which was the flute teacher who I actually credit as being my actual first flute teacher, because she was amazing and pushed me to such incredible heights so quickly. Wow. She was amazing for me. That was Robin Richmond. She was just like, oh yeah, we got this. And so yeah, when I was 12, then I got to play also in the Disney Orchestra, which was amazing. And I got to play the Hollywood Bowl when I was 12. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah, it was great. It was so great. I mean, yeah. And it was awesome. But then, so that happened. And then when I was a freshman in high school, I had made the decision, I want to go to music school. I want to be a flute player, and I want to be in an orchestra. And my dad, who is a music teacher and one of the most inspiring humans in the world. My parents are incredible human beings, and I am so lucky that that I got them. They're just amazing people. And they're both fantastic musicians. My dad said, when I said I wanted to be in an orchestra, of course, not knowing that there were other options as well, he said, you want to be in an orchestra? Okay. The chances of getting that kind of job are like 1,000,000 to 1. And I said, yeah, but how do you know I'm not that one? And he said, okie dokie, we're gonna let's step up our training, and let's do what we need to do to help you create this career. And that's, yeah. And even though, I'm not going to be principal flute in the New York Philharmonic as I had hoped when I was a freshman in high school. Yeah. I think this is much better for me, much better option.
No, I agree. And it fits you well. And everybody who finds their niche, you can see not that title, but I will use title. You will see that label and you'll think, well, yeah, duh, that fits them so well. Of course, they can't be anything else because that was made for them. Right, exactly. Yeah, I would have definitely gotten fired from many orchestras if I kept on that track. I am too much of a loudmouth, and orchestra musicians. I have so much respect for orchestra musicians who can do that and play so passionately and beautifully and perfectly and maintain such incredible decorum. And that is not me.
You saw pictures of me. My hair is bright red. I much prefer me this way, and I'm sure the New York Philharmonic would never have let me dye my hair this color.
Can you imagine the New York Phil writing you an email? Hey, Hilary,
yeah, right.
FYI.
Yeah, that's definitely against our rules for what you can wear. That is very distracting. Yeah.
Oh, shoot. So speaking how your red hair does fit you well with the fourth wall and the character and all of that jazz, you know, looking at your videos, of course, movement is such a huge component of the presentations. So what have you learned about your body and your flute playing through incorporating this movement into your performance?
Oh, yeah. So when I don't move, when I play like in an orchestra or something, I get so much tension in my body. Like we mentioned before, like your body just remembers and my body snaps back into such a tight, tense place. And I get weird overuse and when I'm not supposed to move. And then in the fourth wall, I'm just moving and I don't have any of those issues. I have no overuse issues. If it hurts, I move it and it's fine. You know, it's those things. My body is capable of so much more than I ever gave it credit for. And learning and pushing myself in the fourth wall has opened that world to me of what I am capable of doing. And then also the idea of just making conscious choices about body movements instead of just letting my body do whatever. We all know of that clarinetist or that oboist, because we sit across from them in the wind quintet, that has the magical bouncing eyebrows while they play, you know, and they're just like going crazy. And that's not a conscious choice. That's just sort of what their face does. And that can be, that's really distracting to an audience who's seeing you. So making conscious choices about movement is something that I learned, and making sure that my body is doing things that make sense to the music and to the theatrical piece is important. And yeah,
no, that's awesome. Today's sponsor is brought to you by J&K Productions. Did you know that not only are they a production company for podcasts, but they are a recording company for musicians? Any musical recording needs that you may have, J&K Productions can fulfill that need. They have all the necessary equipment and expertise to record your next flute recording for college or graduate auditions, competitions, summer festivals, or a flute album. J&K Productions can record any setup imaginable, from solo flute, small chamber, flute and piano, and much more. Consider J&K Productions for your next recording project. Contact them at jkproductions.media. You might really get a kick out of checking Heather Warren Crow's art. She was a professor of mine at Texas Tech University, and she has her PhD in interdisciplinary arts, and she is fabulous.
Nice.
Yeah, she does sound mixes, live sound, recorded sound, video, acting, choreography, everything, and costume. I mean, and it's all, I think, I could be totally putting my foot in my mouth, but I think it's like all research based. I think she kind of like pulls out on certain like artists from the past and current artists. And then she also, of course, makes her own compositions. But I took a class thinking that I was going to continue my studies and add on a PhD on top of my DMA, which is insane. I don't recommend that to anybody.
No.
It was just like, what was I, thinking that day? Yeah. What did I drink that day? I don't know, because I must have been on something. But so I took a class from her to start that PhD program, and I thought, and I'm so glad I did, because I learned so much from her. And she has a website and a YouTube channel and everything. So I thought to bring that up just because that's what you do, and you could check that out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Cool. So a fun question, through all of your performances and moving and jumping and all of that, have you ever dropped your flute?
Nope, not a single time.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of folks ask, okay, you don't use your good flute when you do that stuff. I'm like, of course I do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
as I told Powell when I was like trying to wheedle my way into their pantheon of artists, I said I always want to sound my best, and that means I'm always going to play my Powell. I love my instrument very much, and as all three of us are very careful about our instruments, and so we always joke, but it's not really a joke, that instrument safety comes first and human safety comes second. Mm-hmm. So there are times where we're working on a lift, and when we first try a lift, then we're just doing whatever hands we need to get into it or whatever, and then we'll trade out. I'll go into playing position and with nothing in my hands and see if the lift will still work, and then we'll adjust it, and then we'll move to me holding we'll say a stunt flute, but it's usually a boom whacker or something, which is a plastic tube, which is the same length as the flute. So I'll use that and hold that in my hands to see, how is this like to hold something and keep it on my face. And then we'll trade in the actual instrument, the good instrument. And if it's a particularly dangerous piece that we're working on, such as our version of Paganini's 24th Caprice, we will rehearse that in a circus studio that has padded flooring. So if the human falls, then the human will hopefully not break anything. But we also have the very important safety word, which is flute, 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 which is grab the flute and let the human fall. So, which is happened only half a dozen times, I think, in the last 10 years we'll call the safety word, but there has been very few times where safety word is yelled and I have actually fallen. It is very rare. Luckily, I am very lucky to work with two people who I feel very safe with, and they are very safe with me if I'm doing the lifting, and we make sure that human safety is important, but instrument safety comes first.
I love that.
So the first time I think the Powell people saw us do what we do, they were just like, what are you doing? Do you not realize how expensive that is? And it's like, oh, yes. And it's funny to watch you look really terrified right now.
That's great.
Yeah. But yes, the instrument has never been dropped.
Okay.
So
very cool. You should video their reaction, and...
Oh, right?
Yeah.
Next time we do something really utterly batshit crazy, we should just have a camera trained on them. They're just going to be like wincing the whole time. Like, oh. That's how my parents act, at least. There's a couple of pieces we do that my parents are just so uncomfortable every single time we do it. And it's because they're fairly certain I'm going to fall onto my head or break the flute. You've seen us do this piece hundreds of times, Mom and Dad. It's going to be fine.
Oh, shoot. But isn't that interesting? I was just thinking of that. Here the audience is reacting in this shocked manner. I mean, think about how that impacts the performance. I mean, you don't, you know what I mean? You don't have this shocked, sense of feeling in a normal orchestra performance. And so right. I'm sure you get to hear the audience members whispering or commenting and pointing or going, and I think that would definitely add to the event.
Oh, it's the best. It's the best. It's fun to experience like a traditional classical music concert where somebody's playing a piece with movements, and then, you don't clap between movements. And it's a very specific style of performance, and there's a lot to be respected and to be enjoyed with that experience of experiencing every movement in its place. And then there's our shows where sometimes we do something impressive and people do what we call the circus clap, which is like you do something impressive and you clap right in the middle of the piece, and it has nothing to do with the music, but it's like, oh, you're hanging upside down by your ankles off of a really crazy looking circus apparatus. That's impressive. I'm a clap. And I love getting the circus clap. It's like, especially with a classical music audience, because when the classical music audience sort of lets go of that very ingrained proper decorum, and they're just let themselves do what they feel is natural, then I'm like, all right, I got you. We brought you down to our level. It's fun down here.
Oh, how fun.
It's very fun. I enjoy it a lot.
Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share? I know it's a vague question, but I have learned as a podcast host, I will say, that's a wrap. And they go, no. So I want to make sure I give you the floor to share anything that's on your heart that we have not discussed already.
Yeah, we discussed a lot, I think.
Yeah.
One of the questions that you had asked me in the email you sent was any tips for musicians who are traveling extensively.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a great question. I don't always get that question. So I did write a list, and I'm very proud of my list because it's not what you would expect. So for those folks who don't know, we spend a lot of time on the road, and we drive everywhere because we have a percussionist and he has too much crap to fly with. So we've gone as far northwest as, Fairbanks we did fly to that one, but Edmonton, Alberta, we drove all the way out there. We've driven to San Diego, down to Texas, to Orlando. We'll be flying to Edinburgh, but we drive all over the country. And so we spend a lot of time in the tour van, and we spend a lot of time on the road, not performing. And like some of my advice is just very practical for what to do on the road. For example, we always bring our own forks, because inevitably you're going to go someplace with, you get carry out, and, don't use plastic utensils that they give you. You could just, you could just reduce your carbon footprint by getting like a, nice spoon, and like we'd use a spoon and fork combination. It's got a spoon on one end and a fork on the other. They're like $5 off of Amazon. But then we just like stash them I stashed one in my purse or in my flute bag, and I have that with me all the time. And then I don't have to use that.
Nice.
And we always eat local, drink local, unless we're on a very long drive, and then it's Starbucks. Starbucks has the best bathrooms. They all smell the same, but they are the best bathrooms. And we all have gold rewards cards with Starbucks. But otherwise, we always eat local, drink local, and find out what's new and exciting in that new community that we're visiting. When we're driving, we always tell everyone, every time you stop to gas up the car, everybody uses the bathroom. It doesn't matter if you don't need to go, everybody goes. And then you don't have to stop to use the bathroom. It's wonderful. One thing that is very common amongst the fringe circuit. The fringe festivals are they're theater festivals that happen around the world, really. But there's a wonderful circuit up in Canada that we participate in, and there are artists who are on the road from the beginning of May through. I think Vancouver is still happening right now. So through the end of September, there are these artists who are just going from festival to festival doing shows, and something that we tend to experience is what we call touch starvation. Basically, you don't touch people for months on end, and then you get really depressed and you shrink in on yourself. So I always recommend hug people, hug your bandmates, and make sure that you're not falling into that. And always FaceTime and Skype with your loved ones back home at however much they need it, and schedule it, and make sure you do it, and you make sure you're paying attention to those people back home, because it's hard on them when you're away and you're doing these really fun things, but making sure that they're still taken care of and they're still doing okay when they're doing their normal thing.
Yeah.
We have a rule in our car that no phone calls or doing business talk in the car, because then you can't get away from each other, and that's bad. But we do read aloud. We read very fun books to each other. I highly recommend there's this great Star Wars and Shakespeare series. It's like Shakespeare, like Star Wars as if Shakespeare wrote Star Wars plays. That's wonderful. Yeah. So just like basic, and always take airborne in emergency. Vitamins.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's like my basic advice for living on the road for months on end. Just take care of yourself and the people back home.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for politely calling me out on that, because I literally saw that in the outline just now, through our talk, and it's question number 5. And I intentionally skipped it because I was being a Debbie Downer, and I said, Heidi, that's a really dumb question.
No.
And I'm so glad that you came back to it, because your answer was brilliant.
Well, it's interesting that so many musicians, a lot of us musicians we don't go on the road, but some do. But there, a lot of our teachers in undergrad maybe don't, because they're just in their town, or they might do an out and back, but they don't spend a lot of time on the road. And so how you deal with that is important, and learning from people who do it a lot is useful.
Yeah. I bet your Great Dane misses you a lot.
Sometimes. She's a daddy's girl, so yeah, she does. Yeah. When I come back, then there's a lot of, she does donuts around my legs and in between my legs, which is very difficult when she is very big. And I usually end up on the floor falling over, but she does miss me sometimes.
Oh, yeah. What's her name?
Her full name is General Organa, which is a Star Wars reference for those who catch the reference. But we just call her Jen.
Aww.
She'll be 2 next month. She's a mostly white double merle Harlequin Great Dane, and she's adorable. She's beautiful, and she's dumb as bricks. And a cuddle bug, and thinks that she's a lap dog sometimes.
How precious.
Yeah, she's very precious.
Oh, man. So we have some social media questions if you would like to dive into them.
Sure.
Cool. So this is from Laura Pillman, and she asks, where do you find inspiration for your creative projects?
This is one of my absolute favorite questions, because the answer is always the same. Our inspiration usually comes from someone saying, I've got a bad idea. So there was, for example, we were down in Alabama doing we were in a residency at University of Alabama, and we were staying with the flute teacher down there, Diane, and we were staying like in her basement. She had a guest room down there, and her son had a hoverboard just in the basement, which are kind of like Segways without handles. And we were like, what's that? She's like, oh, it's a hoverboard. Feel free to play with it if you like. Cool. All right. And the boys learned how to ride it like in 10 minutes. And it took me an hour, and I fell really badly, and it was hilarious to them. But then one of them said, I have a bad idea. We each need one of these. We need to ride them in a show. And I think we need to do this to Chopin's Minute Waltz. Oh. And that's the way we start many of our shows now, is riding hoverboards around the space while playing Chopin's Minute Waltz. And it's ridiculous. It is so dumb, but it is so much fun. And it's great. It's one of the best things we've done. But yeah, it's a lot of our inspiration comes from someone saying, I have a bad idea. Yeah. Sometimes we have composers write us pieces, and we choreograph it and see what comes out. Our most recent show we created, called Fallen from the Toy Box, started with my brother's piece, Toy Soldier's Tale. And then we created a show from that's all about toys and childhood and everything. And we commissioned some people, and the show came out initially from that. Sometimes there are There have been pieces that started with a lift. Our version of Satie's Gymnopede started with the lift, and then we picked the piece to go along with it. Partly same with the Paganini. Sometimes it comes from a circus prop. We have a circus prop that we designed and had built for us that we call the hamster wheel. It's a weird combination of a German wheel and a Sear wheel. It's not very functional, but it works for us. And we realized they looked a lot like boats. And so we do a cover of the Decemberists' huge hit, Mariner's Revenge. We do that piece to use that circus prop and kind of around that. So sometimes it comes from a circus prop or a lift or just a bad idea.
I love it. A bad idea turns into a great idea.
Yes. And sometimes it's still a bad idea and it never happens. So, but we give it a try before we give it a really good try before we go, oh no, it really is a bad idea. We'll come back to that later. But
isn't that so much a part of the creative process though?
Yeah, well, being open to ridiculousness is what kind of pushes creativity forward. If we kind of do what we see as only good ideas, then we don't actually progress. Yeah. So, taking the bad idea, what we think is a bad idea, and then really working with it, that's, I think, where we can be our most creative.
I love it. Cool. So the second question comes from Rachel Millis, and she asks, I'd love to know about her process of learning the choreography and music, if those are two separate processes or done together or a little bit of both. So let's answer that first before I go to her second portion.
Yeah. So typically the music and a little bit of memorization comes first, especially if the piece starts with, we want to work on this piece of music. Then since we're a weird combination of flute, bass trombone, and percussion or accordion, then we usually start with the music and the arrangement. So we'll arrange the music, we'll get that where we want it, and we'll maybe do a little memorization there because getting it off the page may facilitate the creation of the choreography. Once we have sort of a path of the choreography, then sometimes the choreography and the memorization of the music comes at the same time, and we work creating the choreography as we're memorizing the music. But for the most part, we kind of set what the piece is, we set the choreography, and then putting the piece on its feet, actually working and rehearsing the choreography happens basically at the same time as we are memorizing the music. And those two components come together typically at the same time. Sometimes we have to run away, look at the music, memorize on our own for a second. Sometimes we just need to play the piece together, memorize, just standing still. But usually in the creation of the piece, those two are coming together at the same time to create the strongest connection. This also means that some pieces we cannot do while standing still because we've learned them at the same time. And sometimes we can't just mock through it while... I have a hard time sometimes mocking through the choreography while singing it because I need to feel it in my fingers as well and hear it in my ears. So sometimes those things, rehearsal-wise have to happen all at the same time.
Wow, how interesting.
Yeah.
In her second portion, she continues and says, I'd also be curious if she has practice techniques at home, like practicing upside down, that she uses when she does not have other dancers there in order to help her facilitate playing flute while moving in so many positions.
I definitely practice hanging off my couch or running around chasing my dog. There are some pieces where it is, if it's something highly active and involves a lot of running, if I'm memorizing the music, if I'm still in that part of the practice process, then I will absolutely chase her all around the house while playing and trying to basically try to keep it's a way of keeping my brain on two different tasks at the same time, chasing her while also playing the music. or hanging off the couch, just how that balance is different. I've also set up chairs to mimic a lift, just so I can feel how that feels on my body. But for the most part, anything that is highly acrobatic, like the Paganini or Gymnopédie, or our version of the Vaughan Williams Symphonie Antarctica, which involves the big circus prop, anything like that, it really does have to be rehearsed with all hands on deck because of how it really feels different. I yell at the guys in my, well, I don't yell at them. One of the things that has to happen if I'm going upside down, then I also have to make sure that the notes that are happening around me are correct. There have been times where, you just make note mistakes, happens. It happens, especially when, if you're playing vibraphone, there's a lot of room for error. Same with bass trombone. So much room for error versus flute where there's, it's sort of like you put down the right fingers and the note comes out, for the most part, their instruments are so different and, they're just harder instruments because of that. But if I'm going upside down and I'm hearing wrong notes, that freaks me out. And so we have to work on that and they have to play the right notes so I don't panic.
Yeah.
And that means we have to rehearse all together.
Yeah.
Some pieces like the Paganini, there's maybe a couple of variations I can practice on my own. Those are the ones that really, for the most part, only involve me initiating movements and things like that. But if they're lifting me, if I'm up in the air, then there's nothing I can do to practice on my own. It's gotta be, it's all with them. So
yeah, that makes sense though. I mean, just going back to my ballet days, if I'm hearing, a certain part of the music to give me the cue for that next move, and of course, a lot of my ballet performances were from, taped recordings. So the note's not going to be wrong, but I can see how if you're waiting for that A and you have that A in your head and it's a B flat, then you're like, wait a second. Right. It can throw your body off.
Right. And for the more acrobatic things that we do, frequently, but by that point in the process, in theory, what's coming out of my flute is autopilot, and what's going on my brain musically is autopilot. And I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking more about, okay, I am hanging by my ankles. How can I make this look better? Can I extend this? Can I maintain my breath? I'm not thinking about, the G sharp, A sharp, B natural. I'm not thinking at all about the notes that I'm playing. That's mostly on, I try to keep that completely on autopilot. And I'm focused just on what lines I'm creating and my breathing and making sure that I am creating a good sound. And if that, and I'm maintaining, tempo and all that nonsense, but, I'm not thinking so much about the actual notes, but making what I look as good as possible. And if I hear weird things, then I have to pull my brain away from that to think, oh, wait, am I in a different spot? Are they what, and that gets a little tricky.
Yeah, I can imagine. Cool. So do you have some picks for us today? It can be anything, like your favorite book or movie.
So I have 4 for you because I saw yours and I was just like, oh, those are great ideas. So I am currently reading The Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. The Dresden Files are a series of novels about this guy, Harry Dresden, who is Chicago's only practicing professional wizard. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful series of books, and he is sarcastic and he is rude, and I love him. He's wonderful. But he's a wizard, which is just fun.
Cool.
So my husband and I are very much into very nerdy sci-fi and fantasy books. So that's like my potato chip reading right now.
Nice.
Music wise, I wanted to share this great set of tunes by this amazing band called Comas. Comas is a primarily Irish band. They're not based in Ireland, but they do kind of Irish stuff. But there's a set, and I can email you the link as well if you'd like. But Sylvain Baroux's polkas and Peter Ostroushko's jig that's a great, amazing set from their album called Comas. So it's in Irish music, you're usually playing in like very prescribed keys, and you don't get to play any fun notes, mostly because keyless Irish flutes and keyless Irish pipes can't play all the notes in a chromatic scale. So traditionally, you don't play things like a D sharp, but these polkas are so great, and they use weird notes. And the second polka is in C major, which is so not normal in Irish music, and it's delightful, and it brings me joy. So it's just a really phenomenal set I love it so much. Yeah. Another one of my picks is Zara Lawler's Time Frame. If you don't know Zara, she is so wonderful. She's another flute player who does the same work that I do, the hybrid arts. And she choreographed the Barrio Sequenza. And she had this fantastic circus prop built for her. It's like this big frame, and she does the entire Barrio within the frame, moving the frame around the space, and it is spectacular. Oh gosh, she is so good, and I'm just so jealous, and she sounds amazing, and I'm so annoyed that she got to the Barrio before I could, and I'm just like, dang it. But it is an amazing experience, and she's got a phenomenal video on YouTube that I love very much.
Oh, cool.
And then my last pick is, because as I mentioned before, I'm a big craft beer person. My current favorite is by a brewery up in Brattleboro, Vermont. They're called Hermit Thrush, and their Fudor is an American barrel-aged wild ale, and it is quite tasty, and I love it as well. And I have a lot of it in our basement right now. Okay.
I was kind of being a Facebook stalker, and you and your husband seem like so much fun together.
Yeah. Oh, you probably saw our wedding photos. Yeah. It's just the tip of the iceberg. We have so many pictures of us cutting the cake where we're not being normal humans. Oh, yeah. We're a little insane. It's wonderful.
No, I love it. And Zara, she is through the Flute on Its Feet.
Yes.
Yeah. So fun to get you Flute 360 listeners hyped up. I actually have an episode scheduled with her, and it's going to be episode 89 in November.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, she is so great, and she's so smart, and she's so good at like flute and things. Yeah. Like I love Zadie. She's so wonderful. I met her in 2008. She was in the company that I mentioned that I joined, and that's where I met Neil and Greg. She was my predecessor in that company, and I just think the world of Zadie. She's awesome. She's so great.
Yeah, I can't wait to collaborate with her. She sounds amazing.
She's awesome. She's awesome.
So I have 3 picks today, and the first 2 are in homage to, I have been scanning music like crazy because I am going abroad to live the next 3 months in Greece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so here I am scanning, and I, naturally I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you're cutting out on practice time. You could be doing this, and that. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to use this time to the best of my ability. And I'm going to listen to recordings that I have never had the chance to listen to. So nice. I've been listening to a lot of different albums. So the first 2 is a performance by pianist Samson François and his Ravel recordings. It's gorgeous, and I'll send the link to the exact CD so that way there's no confusion. But and then the second one is Hommage to Raphael Fumet. It's a 1999 album. Do you know that composer by chance?
No.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Me neither. A LinkedIn follower of mine sent me a message and said, hey, I've been listening to this album. You should check it out. And I checked it out, and it's beautiful and gorgeous. So I'm passing along the recommendation to you all. But yeah, I had never heard of him, and he's deceased, but he has a son that's quite older. I think he's in his 70s or 80s. And of course, naturally, his son records his compositions. He's a flutist, and there's some really great flute works that I was never aware of.
Very cool.
Yeah. And then the third, I mentioned her earlier, but Dr. Heather Warren Crow's compositions of art. And she's an artist, a researcher, and an educator of the interdisciplinary arts. And she's a wonderful human being, and her projects and her performances are astounding.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have, Hilary, just picked your brain, and thank you for being a trooper.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah. And yeah, thank you so much again for your time, talents, and energy. And I know the listeners are just going to love to dive into all of those great gold nuggets.
Awesome. Awesome. And if they have any more questions, they're more than welcome to message us on Instagram or Facebook or send us an email. And I think you have all of our contact information. So they're more than welcome to do that. And we'd love to hear from them.
Oh, that's very kind of you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, you have a great Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. You too. You too. Enjoy that thunderstorm.
Oh, thank you. Oh, shoot. Well, you take care, and we'll be in touch.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Today's bronze sponsorship is brought to you by Aransas Pass High School. Aransas Pass High School is the winner of the Flute 360 podcast October giveaway. The band and the directors have been working very diligently on their upcoming performances. They would like for you to know about their upcoming concerts, such as the Gregory Portland Tournament of Bands, held on October 5th at 1:30 p.m. Also, on October 12th, they have a South Texas Crossroads Marching Festival at Robstown High School at 3:15 p.m. On October 19th, their UIL Region 14 Marching Contest at Sinton High School at 11:30 a.m. In conclusion, they have a Christmas concert on the 9th of December at 6:30 p.m. and an exciting event of their all-region concert at Texas A&M Kingsville on December 14th at 3 p.m. Central U.S. time. If you would like to support the band, please visit www.apisd.org/boosterclub. I know that they would really appreciate the financial support in any amount that you can give. Congratulations again to the school, the students, and the band directors. Thank you for listening to the Flute 360 podcast. For more information, please visit HeidiKBigay.com. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review in the iTunes store. Let's talk about flute.